What is going on, everyone? We're back with NBA previews. Today we're talking about the Milwaukee Bucks. I am Jiarmani DePena, and with me today is Matt Hanifan. NBA is back. Celtics and Knicks are playing in within the hour at the time of recording. So, Matt, NBA season's back. I want to see how you're doing before we dive into Milwaukee. So, the floor is yours, my friend. How you doing?
Basketball's back. Basketball's back, man. I'm pumped. I'm excited. Uh, the basketball's back. Well, college basketball's going to be starting up here in a couple weeks. Obviously, the NBA season is going to be in full swing in a matter of days. I know, yeah. Opening night is tonight. The rest of the teams, most of the rest of them, tip off Wednesday and Thursday. By the time you're seeing this, your team may have already played or not played. The Bucks may have already played or not played. But nah, man, I'm doing really good. I'm just happy the basketball's back in my life for the next 6, 7, 8 months.
And I absolutely love that for us both. So let's talk about Milwaukee. Milwaukee, obviously, coming off of a pretty, not necessarily tumultuous, but very eventful offseason, like making headlines. And obviously, going through the season, like they acquired Dame and they were doing their best to kind of acclimate him. And then, obviously, Giannis and those boys are still over there. Last season, they finished 49-33. That was good for third in the Eastern Conference, but obviously, they lost to a Pacers squad led by Tyrese Halliburton. And also of note, they went through 3 head coaches after the firing of Mike Budenholzer last year. And one of them didn't even last more than 3 games. So I want to get your take of kind of like the offseason stuff that they had to go through last year and kind of like how it kind of dictated their season preceding that, and kind of like just talk about from like the Dame stuff all the way through to where we're at with Milwaukee today.
I will admit, as a Heat fan, I was hoping to forget the Dame situation and all of that entire summer. It was so it was just so unbearable the entire time. Obviously, Dame gets traded in late September to Milwaukee. It's like, man, that's pretty unfortunate. And then Drew Holiday gets traded to Boston. It's like, man, that's also really, really unfortunate. And so all of that saga was just a complete mess and disaster. And I'm still mad at Joe Cronin for that. But that's neither here nor there. This isn't the Blazers portion of this, but to some extent I was high on Portland after they acquired Dame, because it's like, okay, the fit with he and Giannis is like undeniable, at least offensively, the 2-man game that those 2 players can have. And then obviously you add Chris Middleton to that mix. I know they are on the older side of things. They had Jay Crowder, they had Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis, all those different guys, Pat Connaughton. I think it was a campaign at one point. Like they had guys like Pat Bev, like all these different players, and so it's like, okay, like I'm high on this team. I think this team can go far. Maybe not. I don't know if they make the finals or win the Eastern Conference Finals, but you can see pieces there. I did have trouble with them defensively. Like, yeah, the defensive acumen isn't great, but it may not have mattered because of how good that offense, the potential of that offense. And that really wasn't the case. Like they were, a top flight offense, so I think most of the season, but their defense was abysmal. And at times that was losing them games. And it's like, okay, I can see that happening, a few times here and there over an 82-game season. And then they started like 30-13. They fire Adrian Griffin, who they hired. Giannis, like, I don't know if it was handpicked is the right word, but like he was the leader in the clubhouse for wanting to get Adrian Griffin. He was an assistant with Toronto. He was employing this very, aggressive defensive scheme. And so instead of like them playing in a deep drop with Lopez and with some of their other bigs like they were with Mike Budenholzer, they were playing aggressive, like they were blitzing, they were doubling, they were doing all that. Like it was a hyper-aggressive defensive scheme. Obviously, that opens up some rim protection. You need the back line to help you out a lot in that case, and you need you're able to force turnovers and whatnot, get out on the break. That helps, but that's just not that wasn't necessarily happening. They were just allowing too many gaps. They weren't helping quick enough, all that jazz. And they were just one of the worst defensive teams in the entire league. And so they fire him after one season. I think they weren't really happy with what he was doing schematically. And again, when you have, there was a report that came out that Giannis wasn't very happy about that stuff. Regardless, they hired Doc Rivers, which just a wild midseason coaching. Like the fact that Doc Rivers was just coming out of ESPN's booth, and then his opening comments were like, "Yeah, I wouldn't recommend this on anyone. This is miserable." I mean, he didn't actually say that last part, but he did say like I wouldn't recommend doing this, like anyone doing this, taking a job midway through the coaching season, like right around the All-Star break, where he was like, trying to assemble a coaching staff and trying to, assemble schemes and whatnot. And they were, I believe, under 500 with Doc, 17 and 19 to end the season. They get bounced in 6 games to Indiana. Like, I think there's going to be more structure this year. But it was just a wild, like, obviously you're on top of the world after you get Damian Lillard coming off probably his best year of his career, or at least one of them when he was in Portland. He has a disappointing season. Giannis is obviously an MVP-like player. Chris was hurt throughout the year and he was dealing with multiple injuries, and there were times where he was just only available by name. These guys aren't getting younger, and like it was just a chaotic season. It was a roller coaster. By the time they were eliminated, I'm sure just Bucks fans wanted to take a breath, just because of everything that happened over an 82 game season, especially in the weeks leading up to training camp, and all that. So it was a pretty hectic offseason for them, or hectic season for them, I should say.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's never a good sign when you're going through 3 head coaches, and let alone trying to kind of still maintain, a sense of not necessarily competitiveness, but find a sense of normalcy. I guess it might be the right word. Like, you can't get comfortable, especially with like if you're not knowing who you're going to be playing for on every couple of weeks. But something else is like going back to kind of like the Damian Lillard, like bringing in Dame. Obviously, like a lot of people, like it wouldn't be a surprise. Like their offense would get better, but their defense would get worse. Like I feel like that would have been the dynamic whether Dame got traded anywhere else, like whether Miami or not, for example. But like, so Drew Holiday's final season with the Bucks obviously was the 2023 season. They were 8th in offense that year and 14th in opponent's points per game, or defense, I guess, according to Basketball Reference. And then you go to the very next year, they were 4th in points per game, but then also they dropped down to 21st in opponents' points per game. So obviously, like the dynamic was there, but also the fact that Dame, in my opinion, should have got traded, I think, well before he was 30, because I think like there was like the writing on the wall over the last few years. Like if they would have had like a 28-year-old Damian Lillard on this team, then it's a completely different story. But now, like I believe Dame's going into his like age 33 season, if I remember. He might be older than that, but even then, like he had himself still a quality season. He averaged 24 and 7, and like still an all-star. Like Dame was still good. And I think it's just the fact that maybe getting another year with him and Giannis together, and no trade rumors, nothing like that, and kind of like all that stuff's out the window. I think Milwaukee will be better than, winning. Even with everything, they still won 49 games, even though there was still a 9-game difference with losing Drew Holiday, which Milwaukee Bucks fans at the time of trading him were trying to say he was washed, and obviously we know he's not, at least not yet. But in any case, like they still have, like what I saw from someone like Chris Middleton, like in the playoffs, like he was dragging that team, even on if it was on one leg, he was still like he was hitting some crazy shots to kind of like force overtimes and whatnot. So like if you can get Chris Middleton to even be somewhat healthy, because ever since he got that knee injury a few years ago, he really hasn't been the same player overall. But yeah, I feel like Milwaukee's still, as long as they have Giannis on their roster, and especially with Dame as well, it's like this team is still a top 4 team, top 5 team in the East. Now, do I think they get past some of the teams ahead of them? Probably not, especially like with just like the guys around them, including like just with age and everything. Like Brook Lopez is getting any younger. Bobby Portis is still good. Like Chris Middleton, like I mentioned before, with the injuries and stuff, like that's really what killed them down the stretch. Not even like forget the coaching changes and all like the turmoil and whatnot, like and stuff that may have not been going on behind the scenes. It's like these guys just literally, it was kind of like a New York Knicks situation where like, well, not necessarily as bad as the Knicks, because like they lost damn near everyone to injuries, like seemingly between like a two game span. But like Giannis, I think he played game 1, got hurt, and then Dame pretty much was like, he was still hurt, but like he was still like on the court anyway. But it was kind of hard. Like you had TJ McConnell like kind of giving him problems in that series, and kind of like, not necessarily it seems like abusing him, but like kind of like taking advantage of like the situation a little bit, because like he like especially down the stretch in that series, he was kind of like he made a couple of good strong plays and kind of like bodying him up in the paint and whatnot, like pretty much playing how TJ McConnell would. But yeah, so like I feel like Milwaukee is going to be better this year. And I think as long as like they kind of like the team can remain healthy, and I think these guys are going to be just fine. But depending on how they look, I just hope that they can keep a full season of a head coach, whether it's Doc Rivers. But yeah, like if they can try to find like that sense of normalcy again, they can at least make a good attempt to get back to where they were.
I think Dame's season last year, like maybe not from a statistical perspective, but like an eye test perspective, was like one of the worst years of his entire career. He did look good, to your point. Like he wasn't bad per se, but he didn't look quite like Dame like. And again, like when you're acclimating yourself into a new system that quickly, without much practice or whatnot, like it's gonna take time. You're not gonna be as good. Like I think there's basis to that. So I think, to your point, like another season with him and Giannis, to develop that on-court chemistry, I think could be really beneficial for them. A couple other things that I want to talk about. This was a team that was like, I want to say they were like around or above the second apron. I think they're above it. They did a really good job this offseason improving around the fringes. Just with like, they got Gary Trent Jr. on the minimum. They got Taurean Prince, who I know Laker fans didn't always love the Taurean Prince experience last year, but like they get him for the minimum. They got DeLon Wright, who will help their defense considerably just at the point of attack, like stuff that they need outside of Pat. But like now that Pat Bev's in Europe or he's in Israel, like that's gonna matter. And so that's like a very good like complementary addition to that team. And so the fact that like they were able to get those three guys on like bargain bin contracts, especially Trent and Prince, like they did a really good job, improving around the second apron. They drafted AJ Johnson in the first round, which I'm still kind of confused by, just because this is a team that has championship expectations and they draft one of the youngest players in the entire draft who's very, very raw. But I do like AJ Johnson as like a long-term player. I make no mistake about that. And then they drafted Tyler Smith, who was a guy who played with G League Ignite last year, who's like a good, solid shot blocker, very good shooting stroke. He can probably score, 2.5, 3 levels consistently on a floor. I don't know if he's going to be asked to do that as a rookie, but a guy who's like a 4/5, like he can be like a stretch big. Needs to bulk up, but like he's a guy who I think they like once they get their hands on and develop, like they're going to do a good job with. And like Doc Rivers isn't a guy that's going to play his rookies that much, like if at all. Like he's a guy who's going to rely on his veterans a lot. So I don't expect a guy like Tyler Smith to get many minutes or a guy like AJ Johnson, but I think like over time those guys can be beneficial to their rotation in addition to like the top 8 or 9 guys that they already got right now. But I am like impressed by their ability to improve around the front. Like they did a really, really, really good job, because not many teams can do that. Like the one other team that I think did somewhat of a good job with that, just given where they were at, was like Phoenix, with getting Tyus Jones and Monty Morris. But like they did a good job getting guys on minimum contracts that you wouldn't have thought would be on minimum contracts at this point of the offseason. And so, hat tip there. Again, I think Dame's going to be better this season. I am worried about the Chris Middleton piece of this, though, because he's still not healthy. Like he had off-season surgery on both of his ankles. He's not going to be ready for the start of the season. Like that's going to be something that I'm going to monitor, because again, like he is entering his age 33 season, I believe, but he's also a guy that is just not getting any younger, and he obviously has lost some juice. Like he can still score. He can still win you some games, like you mentioned, like in the playoffs, how he was knocking down, he was doing Chris Middleton things on the floor, but at the same time, like the consistent impact for him hasn't always been there, because he hasn't always been on the court. And he's been dealing with so many lower body injuries over the last few seasons, to where it's just that stuff takes a wear and tear on you over time. And I'm curious to see how that, develops over an 82 game season, if he's able to get back to himself. Or at least like 80% of what he was, just a few seasons ago when they won the title. I'm very curious about that.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious of the same thing. Because like again, like you're still asking a lot of these guys that have been around or at least on this team for a long, long time. And I think the thing, like to your point with Chris Middleton, like the year before last, he only played 33 games and started 19 of them, and then this year 55 games compared to 77 games and 82 games in the 18 and 19 seasons. So obviously, like I think like him taking not necessarily a lesser role, like he went from like being like the third best or second best scorer on that team to now the third best, especially when he's healthy. Like I feel like if like he can have like health is the biggest battle with him. Everybody else, like Brooke Lopez, like I that's something I fear is that like how good is like somebody like Brooke Lopez going to be now that he's like I think he's 30. Ooh, that's a
He's going to be 36, I think.
Yeah, like is he gonna kind of have like that Al Horford impact? But like I don't.
He's still playing 30 minutes a night. That's the most impressive part about all this.
Yeah, Al Horford going 39, going on 27. It seems like but no, but like the thing is, it's like those are the things you got to be concerned about because like are they gonna play like they have the names and they have like they have like guys at the top that can drag this team to the postseason, but at the same time it's like I can't help but think they can have themselves a productive season, but then they may be that team that will be like, wow, those guys may go out in the first round, depending on who they match up with. So like it's stuff like that. I'll have to look into this Milwaukee Bucks squad. I think Giannis is gonna just he's gonna be honest and he's gonna be fantastic. And I think like I said before, I think this team's gonna be better. I think it's just like the guys around them is going to be the most important thing to kind of look at. Because like where you're going to get from Giannis, like Dame, you kind of don't anticipate him like slowing down or anything at least yet. But yeah, the rest of those guys like how is Middleton going to be going into the years? They're going to give you more than 55 games and not be playing pretty much on one leg at times or anything like that. So it's going to be real interesting to see how this team is like year to year because like clock's ticking with somebody like Giannis especially.
Anytime you have Giannis, you have a chance, but you got to capitalize on that. I mean, I know they already won a title, but you want to capitalize on that window again, ideally, if you have the opportunity to. There's a reason why they got Damian Lillard.
That was the cash in. There was a reason they traded for Drew Holiday too. It's like
exactly
cash in, or they try to cash in while they have him, and like it worked with Drew, and obviously like you moved on from him, and then you bring in somebody else who's kind of like not necessarily like the complete opposite of what Drew was, but obviously like more offensive oriented. That really started shaking things up. But yeah, Milwaukee, it's like I would ask you this too, like where would you see them? Because obviously they won 49 games with everything that happened. So like I want to see like do you see them being below that, being above that? Because I think they were good for so they would finish third in the East with everything that happened. So like do you think they stay around that mark? Do you think they play better, play worse?
I think they get around 50 wins again. I think they get around 50. Like, I don't see them getting like 50, I don't, just considering how I think the East catches a lot of shit because of how bad the bottom is. But like, I think they're like the middle of the East is solid. Maybe it could be better, but it's solid. And then obviously the top of the East with Boston, New York, so on and so forth. You could probably involve Milwaukee in that tier somewhere. Like I have them as a number 4 seed. So I think they can win, 50 games, 50-ish games. It's going to be tough just because of like if guys can't stay healthy and like if guys aren't performing up to their capabilities. More so I'm speaking toward like, again, Brooke Lopez, Chris Middleton, some of these guys who are, on the tail end of their careers. Like if I hope we don't see like a worse version of Dame this year. I'm not anticipating it, but I just hope that's not the case. And then with like a guy like Pat Connaughton, he's going to be surprisingly enough, Pat Connaughton, former baseball pitcher Pat Connaughton, is entering his age 32 season. So like he's someone who's not always he's not the youngest, duck on the pond. And so I know some of their other guys can, blossom. Like DeLon Wright's not super young either, but I think he can be someone who can provide a role. Gary Trent Jr., obviously, who's going to be in his age 26 season. Torian Prince, who's I think just now turning 30 soon, if he hasn't already. But so you still have guys who are contributing role players in addition to potentially like a Marjon Beauchamp. taking a leap this year, or maybe like an Andre Jackson gets more playing time, like stuff like that. But if the top isn't playing to what they're capable of, Giannis aside, and to some extent Dame aside, like I think there could be more bumps in the road, but I think they are like around a 50-win team this upcoming season.
Yeah, I feel like that's fair. Because it doesn't necessarily mean like if the team plays better, it doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, it's gonna show like dramatically in the standings or anything like that. I For me with Milwaukee, I think they'll have a better season, but I just feel like one of these teams that people will be talking so highly about, or like we anticipate will be great. I feel like one of these teams are gonna have to get bounced out in the first round, and like people are gonna be shocked, and I think that might be Milwaukee this year, like losing to a team like like
You
even
have Doc Rivers as your coach, so anything's possible.
I just feel like you got to look at it as like if this seems like middle of the pack in the Eastern Conference, even if they're on like the upper half of like that middle section, like you're probably gonna get bounced out from one of the teams that are better than you, or even like a team on the rise like Orlando or something that like say like it's like one of those series that's like if they oh man they had a bad matchup, like if there was any other team they probably would have advanced, kind of like the Lakers in a sense, like when they faced Denver in the opening round. It's like if they faced anybody else, they probably would have did just fine. But no, they caught Denver immediately, and then didn't work out. So with that in mind, I feel like that's the thing for Milwaukee is that they may run into a team like New York immediately, or Orlando or Cleveland maybe, or something like that, and then they get bounced out in the first round because they just caught a bad deal. But I could be wrong, but I think that's just my prediction for Milwaukee. And maybe in the best of times, they probably make it Eastern Conference Finals.
For sure. I think that's where their ceiling is at. I don't think they make a finals, but I think that's like a pragmatic ceiling. I think is an Eastern Conference Finals.
Okay, so I would say since kind of like trying to like tie the bow on like the Milwaukee Bucks going into the season, do you have kind of like what's like maybe if you could put into like one sentence, like what's something you feel like the Bucks need to make sure like they're kind of honed in on in order for them to be the best of themselves this year?
Be better defensively. Be better. I mean, they were more sound under Doc, but do it consistently for an 82-game season.
Okay.
The best teams in the NBA are not going to be great if they're not going to be good defensively and on the glass. You need those two things to win championships, or if you want to be in the conversation to win a championship. You can have great offense, but if you're like, you could be the Indiana Pacers for all I care. Like, you got to be really good and sound defensively. Like that's how you're gonna win 4 games in a 7-game series. Is getting stops on the defensive end, holding teams to one possession, being more sound, creating deflections, getting block shots, and then turning that into easy offense. In addition to the offensive firepower that you already have with Dame, with Giannis, with Chris if he stays healthy, with Portis, with some of these other guys, like that be sound defensively. That'd be if you're giving me one sentence, that'd be it.
Bucks got to be better defensively. Like they have a top 5 offense when these guys were healthy. It's all about the defensive side of the ball. Words for Matt Hanifan, words for Milwaukee Bucks and their fans. Like at least that's what you guys should command out of your squad this year. But Matt, that is going to do it for the Milwaukee Bucks NBA season preview. Guys, Bucks fans, NBA fans, sound off in the comments if you guys got anything you want to say. Let Matt or I know that we don't know what the fuck we're talking about, or you agree with what we say. Like we want to hear from you guys. But with all that, I want you guys to please go show support at venditasportsmedia.com. Check out our YouTube with all the other NBA previews. See right there on the bar at the bottom. Check out all of our NBA previews. We're covering all 30 NBA teams. We got the Celtics and Minnesota Timberwolves playing tonight, along with the Lakers and the Knicks. Not in that order, but all those teams are playing on open night today. So a lot of stuff going on. MLB season's winding down. World Series starts Friday. We're covering all the major sports, gaming, anything you can think of. I'm pretty sure we have something for you that you can you'll find something that seems right for you if you guys check us out. So any and all support will be appreciated. Matt, it's been a pleasure. Guys, I've been Jiarmani DePena. That's been Matt Hanifan. That was the Bucks NBA season preview, and we'll see you guys next time.